everybody, this is Sarah and I'm back with another video, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about how to break down braids for color handling techniques. So what I'm going to do is film myself breaking this braid of fiber down. It's a braid from Three Waters Farm, and what's nice about this particular dyer's fiber is when she dyes it, she has 3 repeats of the colorway. So you can actually take and break the braid at each colorway repeat and play around with how the colors change based on how you break the braid down. So let's go check out 3 different ways to break this braid down to sample for 3 different yarns. Alright, so here we have my top and I've pulled it out of the bag, and we're going to find the repeat by lining up the colors. So here is another repeat, so you bend there. And here you can see the colors are all lined up. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the braid right here where this bend was, we're going to just pull it in half and lay that down. Then we're going to drive all this over here, and this bend is exactly where the repeat stops or starts, and we're just going to pull it apart there. So now we have 3 repeats that we're going to play with and see how the colors work with the 3 different sections. So this first one, we're just going to take it and we're going to split it directly in half. So I start at one end and sort of unfluff it a little bit. And usually you'll find that comb tops sort of want to break. Like if you just gently pull them apart, they want to break where the pencils went together. So sort of find the break, and sometimes this happens where they get all tangled up. You can just gently break that. You want to be as precise as you can be without worrying too much about it. But now we have 2 pieces that are more or less each 50%. And so if you take these and you twist them just like your yarn would be, if you spin with the same grist the entire time, you're going to have one smooth 2-ply gradient. So that's how you break the first one down. That one's super easy. Most of us have done that one from time to time. This next one, we're going to do something similar. We're going to take this one and break this one also in half. Just straight in half. So sort of fluff it up and find the middle. There we go. And just pull this one in half long ways all the way down. And sometimes they're twisted, so you want to untwist them. I want that to break there. So the first one was just a traditional straight 2-ply. You spin both from the same end, you ply both from the same end. With this one, we're doing a flipped 2-ply. So I've got 2 blue ends here in my hand. I don't want this blue end. I want this cream colored end. And we're going to match those up and then pretend to spin them. And you can see how these colors in this particular 2-ply are going to work together. You will have a point, probably, where the colors match because you're just flipping them in half. So it's technically going to be a palindrome. It's going to mirror each side of the center. Now this last one, we're going to do a fractal. So we're going to take this first one again, same as before, and we're going to fluff it out a little bit, find where the middle wants to be, and start pulling. Now, one tip, when you pull, try to pull with both hands and move up because it helps the fibers stay with their partners better. You don't end up with one side super lopsided than the other if you do it that way. If you just go and like pull like this, like back and forth, you tend to rock the fiber more than not, and you'll generally end up with uneven halves. So this half we're going to take and put over to the side. This half we're going to split in half again. Now you notice how I pop my hands together and move both hands at the same time. So I try to keep the pieces as even as possible. Sometimes the fiber is just going to fight you and it's not going to do it. But for the most part, you can get pretty even pieces this way. Now we've got two more halves. So we're going to take this half and put it aside and take this little half again and break it one more time. Just in half. And especially for this one, it's not as critical that the pieces are exactly split evenly. It's helpful, but it's not critical because the way that the finished product is going to work out, it won't really matter. Now see, when I split this one, it wanted to come apart into two pieces. That's totally fine. Don't even worry about it. Just sort of keep them together and roll them up into a little ball because we're done splitting this side. And when you spin it, just be mindful that they're going to want to come apart and you're not going to let them do that. This one also wanted to split, so we're just rolling this one up. Don't want to split it. Now we've got this other half that we've already split. We need to split this one again. So, once again, take it, find a good center spot, and just start pulling. Remembering to try to make your hands move at the same time. And there's that one. So take this one, roll it up, and save it for later. And I want to show you how this is going to work. So you can choose at this point to reverse fractal this one or plain fractal, because we're going to take this little piece and spin it with the other three little pieces, but this chunky piece we're going to spin just as it is. So if you meet your blue gray cadet gray ends together and twist them, matching perfectly. Because the fibers are just broken, right? But once you spin them, this one, the one that we broke into four, has much shorter color repeats than this one because of the difference in fiber. So this has what, 4 times as much fiber as this one. So this one's going to go faster and faster and faster, where these color sections over here are going to take a lot longer because there's a whole lot more fiber to get through. So you're going to have super short sections of color repeats on the skinny one, and those are not going to match up with this one, the very thick one, because there's just so much more fiber. And that's going to give you a fractal. This is an example of a fractal yarn that I have already spun, and you can see you have sections where the colors line up perfectly, and then you have other sections where you have barber poling, and that is textbook fractal because you're taking the same fiber and spinning one chunk thick and one chunk with thin color repeats, and the colors are going to match up every occasionally, but for the most part it's not going to match up. Here's an example of a straight 2-ply. This one happened to have been a gradient yarn, but you're going to have slight overlaps in your colors. So this right here has 2 different shades of purple mixed together. Here you have a dusty purple and a gray mixing together. Here you have the gray and a dusty blue mixing together. That's just going to smooth the gradient effect, and it's not going to make color blocks. It's actually going to make it blend optically. So you can see right here, here's where 2 different purples met. But when this is knitted, those areas aren't going to be so obvious. So this is just a straight traditional 2-ply. I do not have an example of a flipped 2-ply because that's not something that I have ever actually done before. So this is the best example that I can give you, is just to twist this up again and show you. That would be your flipped 2-ply because it's going to mirror on itself at this point. So there you go. Now that you've seen the braid broken down, go grab a braid of your own that is sacrificial fiber that you love but you're also willing to experiment with, and break it down into 3 different, 4 different, however many different sections you want to, and spin up some sample yarns to see how the colors play and how you might want to use future braids. I will see you guys next time.